Hi. On this module, we are going to talk about application insights. So you may be wondering what application insights is. Application insights is, using a short sentence, an extensible application performance management service for web developers. It is run by Microsoft as software as a service, so it runs on Azure. It is hosted there, and you can use it to monitor, diagnose, and access your live applications data. It has a lot of features, some of that you may use and others you may not. So it's up to you what you want to use. So it basically can monitor your application in terms of a lot of metrics. So it can understand the performance of the application, how good it is performing, how many calls you are having, the usage, how the users are using the application, etc. It can also get diagnostics data in order to understand if the application is having errors, what kind of errors, the stack trace, the error details, stuff like that. It can also send your traces, your log traces, so you can gather all your traces from all your other components or applications in a single space, so you can search them. You can have custom events that you can use to mark some kind of business events that have happened in your application that you can find to see how the user behaved and stuff like that. It can also track dependencies, the calls that you are making in terms of, for example, HTTP calls or SQL calls, and if they are failing, how much they are taking and stuff like that. And it can also monitor the availability of your applications. Is your application running or is it down for some users? Is it available in the entire world, or perhaps it's unavailable in some parts of the world for some of our users? This is the kind of stuff that it can be monitored, but besides monitoring, you also want to see it. So it has some visualization tools that you can use to understand the trends and data in terms of all this all this telemetry that has been collected. It has functionalities to do search and analysis, so you can understand the kind of problems that you have, how the application is behaving, the performance, that you can do ad hoc analysis and trending and graphics and stuff like that. It also has alerts, so you can be notified when some errors or some event of importance to you happens in your application. For example, the performance is degrading and stuff like that. So you can configure your own alerts, or it can send you automatically notifications when it thinks the application is behaving differently. And then there is also a data export feature that you can export all your data into an external third-party storage or your own storage that you can use for backup or for do analysis with other tools and stuff like that. So the next question typically people ask is, how much is going to cost me? So there are basically two different standard tier pricing. The standard tier has a free monthly price, so it has a monthly free cap of data per month. So if you exceed that data monthly, you will have to pay the extra. If not, you don't have to pay anything. And the data is generous, so it can be used for small to medium applications without incurring in extra costs for you. However, in the standard tier, if you want to export data, you have to pay extra for the exported data. In the enterprise tier, it's priced a little different. So you have a base monthly cost per node. So how many nodes you have, it's how much you pay per each of the nodes. So a node is a service or an application. It's a different instance that sends data. And there is also a free cap that exists per node and per day. So you can multiply your free cap per node versus the number of nodes you have, and that's the monthly cap you have free daily. Apart from that, you also have some availability tests that you can use in order to see how your application is behaving, if it's available all over the world. In terms of data security, so data is secure, it's stored in Azure, it responds to all regulatory compliance, all things that are guaranteed by Azure by nature. So Microsoft doesn't have access to your data, etc., etc. And that data is saved either in Europe or in a US data center. You can choose which data center you want to save your data, your application inside. The data can be collected from all over the world, either on-premise or on the cloud, but the data is stored on one of these data centers of your choosing. The data is kept per 90 days, so you can see all the data there for 90 days. If you want them for more time, you can export it. And only users to which you have been granted explicitly permission can see the data because you gave access for them to do so. By default, no business or personal identifiable information is collected or stored on the servers, unless that's something that you send in custom events. So the custom event or the log traces, that's something that you do explicitly. If you want to send any personal identifiable data or business data, you can do it. But by default, no business or personal information is stored on the servers. There are several kinds of applications that we can monitor. The focus from application insights is on web applications. You can monitor your front ends in terms of the client data that is being run on the browser. So you can see the performance, how much time the browser is spending rendering the data, getting the data from the network, stuff like that. So this is tracks like user and user performance. You can see the usage, which pages the user are seeing, the errors if they are seeing any exceptions on their browsers. If you can send trace and custom events from your browser, you can monitor your availability from your front end. It can also monitor your backends, for example, services or web applications in terms of performance, requests that are being made by clients, the number of errors, if there are errors, the stack trace and stuff like that. And it can also collect trace and custom events. Other types can also be monitored, for example, Windows services, desktop applications, or mobile applications. Although you can do it, it's recommended that you use, for example, OkiApp for those kind of scenarios. Application Insights is made of several components. The first one that you can see on the left is the data sources / instrumentation. Is basically your application that is collecting the data and sending them to Application Insights. Then the data is collected on the storage by Application Insights after it is being ingested in near real time. The data is enriched with context information. There is also a component that you can do analysis and diagnosis in order to filter the data, see the data, perform aggregations in order to do sums and averages and stuff like that. And there is also a component that you can use for visualization and creating alerts. You can see dashboards, what is happening on the system, how it's being used, their usage, do analytics, explore the data, drill down into details and stuff like that. You can use Application Insights with several types of either platforms or frameworks or language or whatever you want to call it. There is a public open source SDK provided by Microsoft that you can use for ASP.NET, for Java, for Node.js, for Go, for Ruby, etc. And typically, if one of the language that you are using is not supported out of the box, there are some third parties offering their own toolkits or their own SDKs in order to send data to Application Insights using a public API, an open API that Application Insights has, which is exactly the same as API that is used by the internal SDK. So there is nothing that you can do that the SDK doesn't do. And there is also support into Azure that you can send Azure diagnostics to Application Insights automatically with just a click of a few buttons. So there is also some kind of Azure integration. You can configure the Azure VMs to send diagnostic to Application Insights to correlate with your data from your applications. And for example, if you want to configure a web application to be monitored by Application Insight, you just have to configure it on the portal. You don't even have to change anything on your code in order to send data to Application Insights.